Okay. And YouTube is activated.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
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 Okay, thank you, Lori, for setting us up. And I understand we are transmitting over YouTube, correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right. Ready to go, Ms. Hendricks?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Wong? Okay, board members? Good to see you, albeit via YouTube or albeit via video conference. Okay, so the time is 10:12, and I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the video conference meeting of the Texas Board of Law Examiners. This meeting is taking place via video conference, via Zoom meeting, and available to the public with an opportunity to view on YouTube. This is being done given the current pandemic conditions and in accordance with guidance that we've received from the Office of the Attorney General of Texas and with the suspension of certain requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act. By my visual confirmation on our screen, I see that we have all board members present except for Ms. Cynthia Orr, who has an excused absence. She had a prior commitment, but is hoping to join us before the end of the meeting. Board members, I hope that you got your board materials. We're going to try to be efficient this morning, given everybody's time, and get through this agenda as quickly as we can. We do have a lot of information that staff has been working to present to us, and so we may dispense with some of the items that we have that just don't need to be considered by us today. I am going to make, let me explain. We have public comments under agenda item 3, and there may be interest for communications from the public, but we're gonna pass that off. We're gonna hold off on that until later in the meeting. So unless there's an objection, board members, I would like to move agenda item number 3 to a little later in the meeting after we get through some of the reports that we've got to listen to this morning. Just a couple of introductory remarks. It's been two weeks since our last meeting. The Texas Supreme Court has issued their order on the administration of the Texas Bar examination for 2020. You all have a copy of that order. Since that last meeting, I can assure you that staff has been working nonstop in coming up with plans to execute the order of the court. And that's what we're going to hear about today. I also want to say that I apologize if we ended the meeting too abruptly last time without my giving sufficient or adequate acknowledgement to every single person that took the time to come before the board to share with us their concerns and their input. Let me tell you on behalf of the board to the members of the public and myself personally that it was greatly appreciated. We listened intently. We have taken everything that has been provided to us and continue to consider it. Many of your concerns and input were quite compelling, and I didn't want that to go unsaid. Since then, we have continued to receive at the office through our email and some through telephone communications, additional input and concerns about the bar exams. Rest assured that we are listening, we hear you, and I wouldn't want any...
Chair, just
Yes.
clarification, we're obviously open to the public.
That's correct. That's correct. This is an open meeting, right? I don't want our actions should not belie the fact that we are taking everything that is being provided and taking it into consideration. At this point, we are in a different position from where we were last time, in that we do have, so to speak, marching orders. And so we're going to proceed accordingly. The only other thing that I'd like to add is that in addition to thanking everybody, examinees, non-examinees, practicing lawyers, deans, anybody from the public that has taken the time to provide us with your thoughts on how this should go forward or not go forward. Thank you. It is appreciated. I also want to thank Susan and Nadia and the staff. Like I said, when I say that they've been working nonstop, that's putting it lightly. They have been working nonstop, literally nonstop, since receiving the court's order. And you're going to see that this morning. And Susan and Nadia, please express to the rest of the staff how much we appreciate them and what they're doing. They continue to work remotely, but they continue to work. In fact, that's why we didn't start right at 10 this morning. Let me assure everyone out there that a panel of the Board of Law Examiners was taking up waivers and actually doing that work. So we started early and we continue on with the work. And finally, I want to express public thanks to the Texas Supreme Court. I would never presume to say that I know what they have to do or how difficult their job is, because I don't, but they have a difficult job. But I'd like to thank the Texas Supreme Court for their diligence on this and their attentiveness. And in particular, Justice Brett Busby, who's been our liaison and in constant communication with the Board of Law Examiners. And so at this point, like I say, for everyone who is just joining or wasn't with us at the beginning, we are going to proceed with the agenda at this point, and let's go ahead and pass on minutes and certified agendas and all. We can do that at the next meeting. Agenda item 3, again, board members, unless there's some objection, let's go ahead and pass on communications from the public for now. We'll take it up later in the meeting. And then we'll go to agenda item number 4, jump right into it, considering an updated budget for fiscal year 2021. Ms. Hendricks and Mr. Shaheen.
Yes, thank you. I'm gonna turn this over to Rod, but in light of the order from the court that we received on July 3rd, moving all of the examination administrations into fiscal year 2021, that has an impact on the budget. And since the court had not yet approved the budget that the board approved at the June meeting, our chief accountant, Rod Shaheen, suggested to me that we should revise the budget so that it will more accurately reflect our expectations for fiscal year 2021. You know, this is a year that's going to be difficult to predict. So, you know, I think this budget is a best guess, but it includes the expected costs to conduct the September examination at what I call testing centers in hotels. And I'm going to be explaining that in more detail later. The board members have received a written description of our plan for the September examination. But this budget does contemplate the expenses required for that approach, as well as the online examination in October, which will fortunately be much less cost intensive, and for the regular February and July examinations. So keep in mind, this budget includes the cost to administer the bar examination 4 times. But it also, correct me if I'm wrong, Rod, pushes the examination fees that we collected for July 2020, not all the fees, but the examination fees, into fiscal year 21, because we do our budget, our accounting on accrual basis. So tell me if that's wrong, Rod. And
That's absolutely correct.
okay. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, first off, I'll say that by canceling the July bar exam and moving it to next year, it's actually going to have a more favorable impact on both years, both 2020 and 2021.
Good.
And that's because basically July was going to be a full expense as far as exam sites go with half of the applicants.
Mhm.
And I think we had budgeted to move about $500,000 to next year in revenue. So we would have taken a significant hit this year.
Yeah.
By moving it all, we've got September and October bar exam revenues being moved from 2020 to 2021 of $1,043,000. And so that's going to significantly improve the bottom line for the current year. And it's going to provide significant relief to the tune of an additional $500,000 from what we had projected before. So based on what we're looking at here, the numbers for next year bottom line are not looking nearly as bad as they were. So by adding the additional costs that Susan was talking about, we're looking at bottom line deficit of 133,000 possibly for next year. It might be more based on, of course, whatever we have to adapt based on the situation in September and October of next year. But the impact of moving this has been positive from a fiscal standpoint for both years.
Yeah, I mean, I want to call this what we've been doing, reinvention of the bar examination. We're not going to give these two exams in the same manner that we've ever administered an examination before. We feel confident that we can do this, but there could be some unexpected expense that we just haven't thought of. So, you know, this budget it's more accurate than the one we had before, I think. And as Rod says, the numbers work out a little better, but I don't know how well we can stick to it, but we'll try. So if we can get it approved, then we will prepare an order and submit it to the court for the court's consideration.
Board members, any questions for either Mr. Shaheen or Ms. Hendricks? And Rod, let me just say this, as Susan just acknowledged, I mean, this is the best that you can come up with as of today, correct?
That's correct.
And Susan's exactly right. I mean, it goes without saying that these are all unique. This is a unique budget, custom fit for this year. I guess we'll just have, I mean, all I would ask you to do is to continue as you always do, staying vigilant with, you know, how things are coming, and as circumstances change or not change, then, you know, we'll have to continue getting updates from you like we always do. But I'm just saying we might have to keep a little closer eye on it than usual. Does that make sense?
It does. And, you know, again, a budget is based on certain assumptions, and our
Right.
assumptions are based on what's going on right now. So again, if things change in 2021 that are going to cost more money or save us money, if they cost more, the assumptions have changed, and I have no problem explaining that.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, the updated budget is not just a recap that has been presented by Mr. Shaheen and Ms. Hendricks, reflects an adjustment for how we're going to move forward and proceed with the administration of the bar exam. And so you've been provided with a spreadsheet that actually shows you the new revised budget numbers. Is that correct, Mr. Sheen? That's what you provided us?
That's correct. The second column, the 2021 budget,
Yes.
is the bottom line for what the current year is, and matches up to the detail. And that's showing the deficit of 133,432.75 for the year, based on our assumptions.
Okay. Okay, and we're going to get some more details on again the plan that we've put together moving forward. But for now, any questions, board members, about the numbers or what Mr. Shaheen has provided us in terms of proposed amended budget? Because I believe that's what it is, right? An amended budget?
Yes.
Okay. All right. if,
Well, I mean, I just have a question. Is this technically an
Sure.
amended budget?
Well-
Because we approved a budget, wasn't approved by the court.
No, it wasn't presented to the court.
It's really a revised, I think of it more as a revised budget because
Okay.
even though we approved the budget in June, things have been a little hectic and we almost immediately went into reevaluating whether we could do the July exam and doing another board meeting. And so we never submitted that budget to the court. So in my mind, this is just kind of a do-over. And we're going to submit this budget to the court.
good point, Mr. Massey. So if it's not technically an amended budget, just
Really
an updated budget?
Yeah, it's just revisions to what we discussed in the
Yeah.
last board
Gotcha.
meeting.
Okay. So then, board members, I would entertain a motion at this time to approve the revised budget as presented by Mr. Shaheen.
I so move.
Mr. Massey, is there a second? Mr. Odom? Any further discussion? All in favor? Please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Gonzalez, I think that's 8-0. Mr.
Aye.
McKenzie, did you vote? All right. Thank you very much, board members. Now we'll
Thank you.
move on. Now we'll move. Thank you, Rod and Susan, for staying on top of that and giving us up to the minute accurate information on this. I appreciate it. So this will now be presented to the court. Is that right, Susan? This
Yes,
budget?
we will. We'll prepare an order and I'll have that sent over to the court probably tomorrow or Monday.
And you'll, I'm sure, have a short note just explaining what it is that it got it. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, moving on down the agenda. We are now at agenda item 5, the report of the executive director. Ms. Hendricks.
Okay, so we met so recently. There's really not anything particularly new to inform you about agency operations. We have conducted more informal settlement conferences and we have more scheduled for tomorrow. And that is really working well to resolve as many character and fitness matters as we can. We're still going to be looking at trying to do a panel hearing by Zoom. The staff attorneys are going to be attending a CLE event. I don't know if it's CLE exactly, but a presentation sponsored by the Austin Bar Association later today, describing how Travis County is going to attempt to do jury trials by Zoom. So I figure if they can do a jury trial by Zoom, we can do a panel hearing by Zoom. But we'll wait and hear their report on that. As Augie said, the staff has been really focused on how to implement the court's order of July 3rd, and that's included in your materials. And I think that you can see from this order that the court is very much aware of the difficulties and concerns of the applicants who were planning to take the July 2020 examination. I think that's clearly recognized in the comments and the determination that was made by the court, as stated in their order. As the board knows, this order did not follow the recommendation that this board made following its most recent meeting on June 26th, but has directed us to conduct an in-person examination in September in addition to the online examination in October. So that takes us to the next thing, which, do you want me to skip ahead to the September exam or to talk about the calendar, Augie?
Hang on.
The next item is the calendar update, and that is an important thing.
Right. So any questions for Ms. Hendricks about, there's a copy of the order that the Supreme Court issued on July 3rd in your board packet, board members, and it's also up on our website. Is that correct?
I don't know that it's on the website.
Okay,
Nadia, is it on the web? It's on the court's website.
on the court's website. Okay.
We do have a link on our website.
I'm sorry?
We do have a link to the order in the announcements
Gotcha.
that we put on our website.
That's right. I did see that.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wong.
So that's available. Well,
But-
we can talk about the calendar update. So the
Yep.
calendar has had some important changes to it because since the court has ordered us to give the September examination with 6 essay questions and 1 procedure and evidence examination, and then the October examination is going to have 12 essays. So the court is thereby requiring us to develop some more essays and some more P&E questions. So the staff has worked up, Kai and Nadia have worked up a plan for the board's work, and it requires us to get into action on that project pretty quickly. You'll see that it has 2 weeks from now, the additional questions, and then we're going to do small group review. That date needs to be selected for whenever is convenient for the board members, and we can do that by Zoom. And in fact, I don't really think that even all have to do it on the same day or at the same time. Right, Nadia? The small group review, they wouldn't have to do that at the same date and time.
That is correct. Small groups could meet on different days.
Yeah, it's not an open meeting, obviously, and they can just figure out when they want to do it. And then we're going to submit all of these to the editor at the end of this month. So this is a real accelerated question development plan that we have here.
Susan, let me just interrupt you for a second. I apologize. I want to recognize board member Cynthia Orrs. Ms. Orr, welcome. Thank you for joining us, Cynthia. Good to see you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on August 22nd, we have scheduled, sort of penciled in a grader workshop. Now, what is that? What do we need a grader workshop? In order to get the examination answers graded and scored and get the grade release done on the schedule that the court has in some ways prescribed for us, and that we've also promised to the court that we will get the September examination results out by around the 1st of November. We are going to propose doubling up the graders. Since we only have 6 essays in September, we can use our existing graders and have each of them grade half of the answers for 1 question. And that'll allow us to get it done faster. But that is going to require that they learn how to work together as co-graders and do calibration. This is something that we plan to implement with the UBE in February. So we're just kind of moving it up. We have Brad Rice, who is a very experienced former grader who graded the MPT for, I don't know what, Nadia, 15 or 20 years. He is very experienced with calibration because we've always had 2 graders on the 1 MPT question. And he is going to, we have enlisted him to conduct a training for the graders on August 22nd. And we would like the board members to participate in that as well, since you supervise the graders and you do calibration too now with your graders. We're going to do it in person in Austin. It will be a small group, and it will also be available by Zoom because I'm sure that some people will not be able or will choose not to come to the event in Austin. So let me know if anybody has a big problem with that date or with any of these other dates that we have highlighted on here with the new examination administration and question development deadlines.
Have you run this date by the graders? Because I know my graders both are often doing other things. You know.
We can't, there's too many of them. We can't find a date that'll work for everybody. If they can't do it, we're going to record it. It'll be recorded on the Zoom, and they can watch the recording. But that's one reason why I really hope that I want all of y'all to definitely be able to do it, because you may need to work with the grader. If your grader can't come to the grader workshop, then you may need to, have them review the video and then work with them on it to make sure they understand how to do the calibration. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. That's the
does.
plan.
Okay.
So if unless anybody sees anything about this proposed calendar that is an issue, we'd like to have it approved.
Thank you, Susan. Board members, take a second. I mean, this is ambitious and aggressive to get, but it's what we need to do in order to get the job done. You'll see the changes are highlighted in yellow as explained by Susan.
Oh, I want to mention one other thing, Augie.
Sure, sure.
We don't really have this information on here, but as you may have noticed in the court's order, they have asked that we have the results from the October examination, which is the online examination, by December 4th. We don't yet know how many applicants are going to opt for the October examination, but we may need to ask the board members to help with the grading, and we may need to recruit some more graders. We will know by the end of this month. We'll have a much better idea how many people will be in the October examination. It's arithmetic. We got 12 questions times X number of examinees, and we don't know the examinee number right now. So when we find that out, we may need to recruit 12 more graders so that we can get the grading done by December 4th. And we may have to ask board members to help with grading, and we may have to ask you to get the regrades done very expeditiously. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. It's not really on the calendar, but.
I had asked for some information on the compensation schedule for graders so that I could talk to potential, have some people in the wings if necessary. And if I could get that, Nadia, that would be helpful, please.
Well, that's really up to you, Barbara. I mean, if the board wants to pay the graders more, that's up to you.
No. I'm asking if you need new graders. I have friends that I want to ask about grading, and I want to be able to tell them how much they're paid for that work.
Okay, I can provide that to you.
Well,
And I think-
So hang on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I mean, Susan, and Nadia, if you guys think we need to recruit, then we will. You'll let us know, and we'll go proceed accordingly.
I wanted to note that there were 2 items on the calendar that we noted needed to have dates selected. It was the small question group review, and then an additional ARC board meeting and full board review of the questions. Did y'all want to take that up today, or do y'all just want to email me with your preferences for those and I can compile the availability? How would y'all like to handle that?
Why don't we do that, Lori? I mean, we can approve and then have those dates locked in when you're able to survey the board.
Thanks. I'll keep track of those. If y'all will just email me your availability for those 2 items, we can pick which one works the best for the most number of board members.
Understand, board? That's our homework, at least part of it. Getting dates that were available for Lori for those two dates.
And once again, the small group review does not have to be on the same day or at the same time. Just
Got it.
the groups have to meet at the same time, but they don't have to meet at the same time as the other groups.
The 2 groups do not, or the 3 groups don't have to meet at the same time. Got it. Okay. Any other questions, board members, for Ms. Hendricks on the proposed calendar?
I have a question. So with regards
Yes.
to the panel hearings, what I thought I heard was that even though the calendar reflects that they will be in person, at this point, we're looking to do those probably by Zoom. Did I understand that correctly?
I think that's,
Subject to conditions.
I'll act as y'all direct me to, but I think right now that's the most feasible
Likely,
thing.
yeah. Okay, all right, thank you.
And what you're doing, you're exploring it and figuring out how, if and how it can be done, and you'll be bringing that back to us for approval?
Yes, I suppose so. I think based on, and Alan and Lynn, you can chime in here, and Allison, I think based on our experience with the informal settlement conferences, you know, I think it can be done. There's some unknown elements that we need to think about.
So stay tuned, board members. Yeah.
I did speak, I was going to mention this in my report, but I did speak with Diane Van Aken this week. She's my counterpart in Michigan. And she and Keith Wilkinson, who's their investigator, have developed a formal Zoom hearing protocol. So I've asked her to share that with me. And once I receive that, Susan, I'll send it on to you, and maybe it'd be helpful to us.
Yeah, and we've looked at the one that the Chief Disciplinary Counsel is using for their evidentiary hearings. So we have some information to look at. I think the most problematic aspects are witnesses, probably how to handle that, but there's got to be a way to do it.
If there are no other questions about the calendar as proposed, I would just like to add one thing. This is all, again, like everything else we're doing, based on information we have today. Understanding, acknowledging, and being fully aware that circumstances could change, board members. You know, that's why we have emergency meeting provisions, for example, you know, under the Texas Open Meetings Act. And I'm sure Susan is presenting this to us saying the asterisk here is subject to change. So, but this is the best calendar that we have, the best plan we have, with the best information that we have available to us at this moment. And let's keep moving forward best we can. Any other questions or comments about the calendar? Everybody understand? Yes, sir, Mr. McKenzie. I'm sorry, Alfred. Can't hear you. You're still on mute.
Can you hear
There
me
you go.
now?
I can.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's why I wanted to update you. The VPN where I'm remotely connecting picked me off of Zoom, and it took me a while to connect by phone. And I wanted to make sure, I think you can hear me by phone and see me by Zoom, but I know that creates feedback, so somebody alert me if I become a distraction.
So far clear to me. No feedback, and you're coming through, and you're even in sync. So
Okay, good.
thank you, Alfred. All right, if there are no other questions about the proposed calendar, board members, I'd entertain a motion to approve the calendar as presented by Ms. Hendricks.
I move we approve it.
Mr. Odom moved, Mr. Soltero, second. All in favor indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much, board members. All right, moving on, Ms. Hendricks, now your report, you're still on. You're going to present us with the plan for the Texas bar exam in September.
Yeah, I don't know if Allison has anything she needs to report. We just kind of put that on there as a routine thing.
Just briefly, and then I know that really the bar exam is what you'll talk about, but I can tell you that investigations are going pretty well. Any applicants who have pending issues like pending criminal history or law school disciplinary matters are in a little bit of a holding pattern just because hearings are getting pushed back. In general, applicants in Puerto Rico are having particular difficulty getting documentation we ask for, so that's something I'm looking at. The are really doing a great job with an ever-changing workflow. Understandably, they're getting a lot of messages right now from applicants about the bar exam, and they're responding to those as quickly as they can. We are starting to see some issues with applicants who are not able to get fingerprinted. The fingerprinting centers, some of them are closed for the pandemic. Others are scheduling at least 1 month out. So I'm going to talk to Susan about that this afternoon and see what we can do to address that. But in the meantime, we can always extend a deadline, or usually extend a deadline for anything that we've requested. So applicants, if they need more time on any requested item, should just message their analyst and let them know, and then we can extend those deadlines. And then Susan and I are also working to set up the law school orientations for the incoming 1Ls at the Texas schools, mostly by Zoom, it looks like, and those should start next month. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Risch. I'm sorry, I was going straight on the board packet materials and jumping to the next document, but I appreciate your report on the character and fitness. Let me ask you this. I mean, it sounds like you're comfortable that there's been no interruption really in communication flow. I know your department, your job duties requires lots of back and forth and communication, but it sounds like that's flowing.
And I think what we see is that when an update is pushed out to applicants, when there's something we have to tell them, they will correspond with their analysts about anything that they're unclear about. And sometimes their analysts don't have an answer for them,
right.
but do direct them to the FAQs and so, and tell them to keep checking back. So that they answer what they can and don't answer what they can't answer.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And again, like I said earlier, please extend the gratitude of the board to all of the analysts. They're on the front line, I know, dealing with anxious applicants as well, and we appreciate what they're doing. Thanks. Okay. Moving on down the agenda, we are at agenda item 7. Report of the Director of Eligibility and Examination, Ms. Wong, with support from Ms. Hendricks.
All right, well, I guess I know we have many applicants watching now, so I do want to kind of just talk just a few minutes about what we've been doing and the information that we hope to release to the potential examinees pretty quickly. So once we got the court's order canceling July, going forward with September and adding October, our first step was to figure out how many people wanted to switch to October. We were pretty sure that we would be able to accommodate everybody who wanted September in September, but we didn't want to make any promises until we really could see the full picture. So we've had about 800 people so far have moved to October, or some people have decided just to go ahead and move to February and just take the UBE that we're going to offer in February. So the good news is with that movement that we are confident with information that we have now that we will be able to seat anyone who wants to seat, anyone who is wanting September will be able to sit in September. And so that's the good news. So our next step, a lot of people are waiting to make this decision until they get a few more pieces of information from us about the October exam. And so we have been investigating that. We have met with California. The board, our equivalents in California have actually given an online baby bar exam. And so Susan and I met with them and were able to learn how it worked for them and some of the pitfalls and some of the things that went really well. And we have also had a demonstration of the online exam technology that ILG is going to provide. So now that we've seen that, I think we'll be able to make some decisions. One of the questions that we're getting a lot is, am I going to be able to use dual monitors? And the answer to that is no. Everyone is going to have to use one single monitor. The security of the software doesn't allow you to have dual monitors. So we'll be able to announce that to everybody. The other question that's come up a lot is the scratch paper issue. If I'm taking the exam in October online, am I going to be able to have any scratch paper? What's that going to look like? So now that we've seen the demonstration from ILG, how we're going to handle the scratch paper issue. So the big question also that a lot of applicants have had is, what is the weighting for the October exam going to be? And by weighting, I mean, how much is the MBE going to count, or how much are the essays going to count? And hopefully the board will be able to make a final decision on that today. And once we're able to announce that information, I think a lot of people will have all the information they need to make a decision. So we're going to communicate with the applicants via Atlas, via a mass communication, letting them know the answer to these questions. Hopefully we'll be able to get that done tomorrow. It might not happen until Monday. But once that final details are revealed, we're going to give everyone about another week to decide whether they want to switch to October, stay in September, or switch to February. And then we'll have our final numbers. We have to get our final numbers in place pretty quickly because it's time to start, preparing and ordering materials. One issue has been raised to me by an applicant, and I have to say it's something that I hadn't thought about, and so I do want to present it to the board. It's not really on the agenda, but I think it is something that the board could vote to put on a future agenda if they want to. And that is the question of the online exam. So there are different ways to offer the October online exam. A lot of the UBE states are offering it this way. They're offering 3 of the multi-state essays. They're offering the 100 MBEs, and then they're offering an MPT, and they're kind of calling this a mini UBE. And the states that are offering this, the UBE states that are offering this October online exam are starting to come together to allow applicants to actually transfer that online score. It's not a UBE score, but it's an online score to the jurisdictions who agree to participate in this kind of reciprocal issue. It's not something that I had really thought about because we're not offering the mini UBE. We're offering a Texas bar exam online. We're using the essays, 12 essays. We're using the 100 MBEs. We're using our traditional procedure and evidence, and then we're using an MPT. And the 12 essays are going to be the 12 Texas essays that our examinees are very familiar with. So I doubt, I'm not sure if other states would want to accept our online score, but I think it is worth considering whether we would want to accept this mini UBE online exam as, and allow people to transfer that in the same way that they would transfer in an actual UBE score. It would be something that's just for this exam cycle. We could and probably would want to require these applicants to fulfill all the other UBE transfer requirements, such as taking the Texas law course online. But I think, an applicant brought this to my attention. We had a lot of back and forth before we really understood what we were talking about. But I think it's definitely something that I would like to throw out there.
Okay. On that particular issue, Ms. Wong, how about we do this? Take some time to work it up, and then you and Susan at our next board meeting. Would that be timely enough to consider it at the next board meeting?
Yeah.
Or do you need action on it today?
Well, it's not on the agenda, really.
Right. So let's work it up and have a proposal, get comfortable with a recommendation for us so that we can consider it the next board meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
I got a note. I'm sorry. Let me ask you, what was your answer on the scrap paper?
We're still investigating that. The big concern is, of course, security. There is a mechanism where we can have the examinees show us their scratch paper at the beginning of each exam if we want to allow them to use scratch paper. The technology also has sort of like a virtual scratch paper feature. So if we were to do away with physical scratch paper, we could just rely on that virtual scratch paper.
Not virtual, it's electronic. There's a notepad in the deal that they can write notes on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We did get some feedback. California did it that way. They didn't allow any scratch paper and only allowed the electronic scratch paper. And they got some feedback on that. It's something that that we're still in discussion about. And again, I think we'll be able, now that we have all this information, I think that we'll be able to make a decision on it pretty quickly. My feeling is that examinees would absolutely prefer to have scratch paper for the exam.
Mr. Odom? Yes, sir, Mr. Odom.
How does it, if you only have one screen, how does it work to have on or electronic scratch paper and an answer booklet on one screen. That's the thing that just jumped out to me as
Mhm.
kind of difficult. I mean, if it's a security issue that we can't overcome, it is what it is, but.
Well, the way it works is the scratch pad is kind of like a little pop-up, and you can move it around and kind of put it off to the side. The screen itself is a split screen, so you have the question on top, and then you have your answer block right underneath it. And you can toggle back and forth. If you want to look at only the question, you can. If you want to only work on your answer, you can. If you don't want to use the scratch paper off to the side, you can just turn it off. And one thing that I do want to let everybody know is that examinees will have plenty of time to play with the technology, with actual questions, MPT questions, MBE questions, P&E questions, essay questions, loaded in there, so they can really become familiar with all the features.
Yeah, the problem with the scratch paper is, we're not there, so we can't be sure that the paper that we see on the screen is the one that they've actually got. So it's pretty much honor system.
Yeah, and it may be that we allow scratch paper for written parts, but not for the MBE. I mean, we can do, there are lots of things to consider, and basically Susan and I just haven't had a chance to sit down and talk about it. It's an important issue, but it is one that we haven't had a chance to finalize yet.
Yeah, and I think we'd like to talk to some of the other states that are doing the online exam and find out what they're going to do. So.
And let me just insert here that I want to emphasize for everyone listening how invaluable that it is to be part of a larger bar professional community. I mean, you guys have you're reaching out. Texas is not alone in this. There are bar professionals that you all have professional relationships with throughout the United States that you are conferring with constantly. Everybody is trying to do the same thing. And so I appreciate that and compliment you for that. And I think it's a point worth making that, it's not just the Texas Board of Law Examiners that is working very hard to put examinations out there during this crisis. There are a lot of other folks that, and I'm glad to hear that you're reaching out and in constant communication with them as well.
There is one other thing that we haven't talked about, and that is the court has also ordered us to reopen the registration procedure to allow applicants to register for September or October. And we do know we do know the technology behind how we need to do that. I suspect that a lot of applicants are going to want to know the issue, how the board's decision on the whether they're going to accept a mini UBE score from other states before they make that decision. So we have not yet reopened that, but it is something that we're going to do pretty quickly. And
I have a question. Sorry.
Hang on, Carlos. Let me see. Cynthia had her hand up, and then you next.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I think it's really important to the extent that you can satisfy yourselves, it's secure that the students have scratch paper to write on. That's very different. I think the thinking process between writing down on paper and then typing something up. It's harder to manipulate diagrams and the like to help you answer questions. So to the extent that you can allow actual paper, I would ask you to think really hard about that.
Thank you, Cynthia. I really do appreciate that guidance.
Yep, got it. Mr. Soltero?
Yeah, I'm with Cynthia on that point. And the other thing I was going to say is, do we have a deadline currently for the extended application period? Because I would want that to be as we can't jam ourselves up to the point where it becomes unmanageable, but I would like that to be as open to anybody who wants to take the October online or the September one as possible.
Well, yes. My thought is the October deadline can be pretty generous because there's less planning that we have to do for that. The September deadline, though, is going to have to be a little more abbreviated, just because there's so much planning involved with an in-person exam.
But we have to order the examination materials from NCBE on July 29th. So what I am proposing is that the deadline to apply for September is going to be July 27th, because we have to know how many examination question books to order from NCBE.
And again, we're probably going to be able to open that registration tomorrow. So that would give people over 10 days to register for September.
This is for new people that haven't, but also if someone is currently registered for the exam and they want to take the September exam, they need to tell us by that date.
Yeah, this would open it up obviously for people who, like, for instance, had signed up for a UBE that was canceled, or
Right.
some of the numerous concerns we heard would be addressed
Right.
by this 10-day period for September, and then the extended period for October. Okay.
Right. And we understand it's just, really a confusing time. Everything is changing every day. Another state makes some decision about their exam, and it's very chaotic, and we do understand that.
Right.
But we do have to know, we're not ordering paper materials for October, obviously, because it's all online. So that gives us more of it. It's a pretty elastic group that we can serve with the October examination. My goal with all of this is to give everyone who plan to take the exam in July an opportunity to take our test and prove their competence this year and get a score this year. That's my overarching objective with everything we're doing right now. And I think we can do that.
Well,
You're looking at the Supreme.
hang on, and that meets what we've been ordered to do by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay. Mr. Massey?
Perfect segue, Augie. Going back to the Supreme Court order, it looks like we go forward with the September exam subject to guidance from public health authorities. The court did not give us, from my review of the order, a deadline to make the call on the September exam. For the benefit of the applicants who've been studying some of whom have been studying for months now, has the staff come up with a date internally that it will make the call as to go or no go on the September exam?
Well, my answer to that, Dwayne, is that, and I don't know if you've had a chance to look at my Texas bar examination plan that's included in the materials. I'm calling this testing centers in hotels. And I believe that this plan can be implemented pretty much without regard to health and safety issues, because it allows every applicant to be housed in their own individual hotel room. So that's why I'm proposing this. It's going to cost more money, but it's something that we can do with the resources that we have, because I really don't worry about canceling the examination with this plan. I think that the safety that it provides is pretty much as good as the online exam. The applicants will have to travel to a hotel, and there may be some people who haven't left their house in 4 months, but I don't know any of them. So I think, yes, they will have to get to the hotel, but once they're there, they don't have to leave their private hotel room for any reason. They can bring food, they can order food from the hotel. This is going to be a hotel that has a full catering facility, so they can order room service, they can order a box lunch from the hotel, they can bring food to the hotel from their home, and they will never have to leave that room once they get there. And when they finish the exam, they can then return to their home. So I think this is impervious unless the government orders everybody not to leave their house for any reason at all, which hasn't happened yet.
Which could happen.
I guess it could.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened yet. As bad as it's been, that hasn't happened. I think this is really pandemic proof. And that's why I'm proposing it.
I think Dwayne's question is a good one. Dwayne, I hear you, and to be clear, Susan, I mean, it's outlined in the documentation, board members, but when we're looking to fulfill the requirement or the order from the Supreme Court to put on an in-person bar exam in September, we're looking to contract with an outside vendor that will come in and arrange for blocks of hotel rooms in 4 different sites. Have we concluded on that?
Yes.
Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth Metroplex, Austin, and Lubbock. And then having examinees who want to take it in September, want to take that option, to be able to go to that room and be in their individual exam room for the duration of the 2 days that it takes to take the Texas bar exam. I think as outlined in the budget discussion earlier, that's also going to be provided to the examinees who choose to do that in September. In other words, it's not going to be at a cost or charge to them. And as Rod explained, Rod, I don't mean to be crude about it, but basically you're taking whatever cost we would have been expending to rent out NRG or other big venues and converting that into this plan. Have I summarized that accurately?
Well, we'll certainly not have the expense of the in-person exam in the large exhibit halls. And that doesn't completely cover the cost of doing this. As I say in the plan, you know, the total cost to do this is going to be something approaching $500,000 for the proctors and the hotel rooms. And I want to make it clear that there are some expenses the applicants are going to have to pay. They're going to have to pay whatever it costs them to get to the hotel. They can drive there in their private vehicle. They can take Uber, whatever. They're going to have to pay for any parking expenses, and they're going to have to pay for their food while they're there. Or they can bring food. Like I said, they can bring food from home. Or if they purchase food, that will be at their expense, and they'll have to have a credit card when they check in the hotel. But we are going to pay the hotel room rental for all of these applicants. We're able to do this because, as you might imagine, the hotels are suffering economically and they're very negotiable. And this is, you know, a lot of hotel rooms for them. And so we've been able to negotiate a really, I think, favorable rate. It will require the applicants to check out of the hotel as soon as they're completed with the exam. They'll have to check out that day. If they want to stay until the next day, they're going to have to pay themselves for the hotel room. But as soon as the exam is over, they can leave. And they'll have to leave. They can't spend the night there unless they want to pay for it themselves. So we worked out quite a few of the details. There's probably some more that we'll need to consider, but they won't have to wear a mask while they're in their personal hotel room, so they won't have to wear a mask while they're taking the test. We will provide masks for them if they decide they want to leave the hotel room outside of the examination time. They'll be able to do that, and we will give masks to the proctors, but they will not have to wear them while they're sitting in their room doing their exam. So I think that'll be a more comfortable arrangement for them than we would have afforded to them in the large meeting room where we were going to have them all spaced out. So I'm pretty excited about this plan. We've never done it before, so there'll probably be some unforeseen complications, but I think it's pretty workable. And as I said, I really am not worried about having to cancel the examination with this proposal. And staff will be on premises, yes. And I want to say this was not my idea. Xtegrity, which is a examination software company, approached us with this idea. They had a little bit different business model than the one that we have come up with. But they've been working with us on this, and they're going to help us manage the hotel part of it. We're going to be paying them a fee to do that. But the staff will be there to administer the examination, and we feel like we can recruit enough proctors to do it. So that's the plan. I think it'll work.
Yes, Ms. Wong.
A couple of things came to mind about the October exam that I just wanted to address. Some other examinee questions. And again, we will give the examinees all of this in an Atlas communication either tomorrow or Monday. But that is what happens if my internet goes out, if it goes out temporarily, if it goes out for a long time. And there are provisions that we will explain for reconnecting and continuing with the exam if that does happen. You know, and then we would, as staff, we would have to kind of take a look and see what we wanted to do about that particular exam. But a temporary blip in your internet is not going to necessarily kick you out of the exam. The other question that comes up a lot is, I don't have a nice place to take the exam, or I don't trust my internet. Staff is gonna travel to all of the normal 6 cities and set up little centers where people can come. I mean,
I didn't think we agreed on 6.
Yeah, 6 or for October.
I don't think we decided that. 6 cities
For October.
maybe.
All right. Well, we will set up locations for examinees to come to. Again, they'll have to make arrangements ahead of time with us, and they most likely are not going to be in a private room. They'll be in a room with a couple other examinees, spaced out, and a proctor will be in there with them. So masks will be required, but we will be able to provide semi-private places with good internet for examinees.
Are there security problems with letting lawyers making their conference rooms available? I mean, for example, we have 2.
None.
Okay.
As long as
Examinees
you only have one person in each conference room.
I think that's a great idea, but yes, examinees can find a private room anywhere in their at work, at home, at their law school. As long as it's private, we don't care where it is. But there would be a problem with a law firm having 2 or 3 people in their conference room. That wouldn't be allowed.
So is there,
We
Barbara,
can't
you're
hear
on
you,
mute.
Barbara.
You're
Yeah.
on mute.
is there anything wrong with the state bar trying to get conference rooms available for people who are taking the October exam, and trying to make it known that they would help people sort of get placed in conference rooms for those people that don't have connections to law firms where they would know about those?
No, again, that would be fine. I guess I just want to make it clear that a private room anywhere is fine, but once you have more than one person in the room, then you're going to have to come to a BLE testing center that is proctored. But no,
Right. We could encourage the state bar to do what I was just talking about if
Yes.
we thought that was good to do. So I have another question. Have we, on the September exam, is the NCBE on board with us giving the 200 MBE questions in the hotels?
Yes.
I see Susan shaking her head.
I've spoken to Judy about it, and we had a meeting. We had a meeting with NCB on Monday. We talked about the online exam, and we talked to them about that too. And because we're going to use paper, we're going to have the regular paper MBE question books with the serial numbers that we will have proctors controlling. They're okay with it.
Okay, and I just was briefly looking at this memorandum of understanding for the remote exam, and it talks about having MEE questions, and I just wonder, we're not going to use those MEE questions, right?
We don't have
Correct.
to use, that's all that they're offering, but we don't have to use everything they're offering. It's just like the regular exam. We take what we want.
Okay, that's just, those are all my questions for
But
now.
one of the real advantages of the online test is that NCB is not charging us for these questions because they don't have to print them and ship them to us. So we are saving quite a bit of money on the online exam, which helps pay for the hotel room testing sites.
And with the two questions with regards to the conversations that we've learned information from other jurisdictions about the online exam and that sort of thing. Do we have any specific character and fitness changes that we're going to include in our instructions? In other words, are there any particular heightened concerns with an online exam or something that relate to character and fitness? I mean, obviously, you know, there are things that apply in every test and, you know, they're going to be important, but is there going to be anything different with instructions? And question number two, will the proctors in the September exam be going some kind of testing along the lines of, you know, getting temperature checks and things like that to make sure, you know, they're, you know, do we have a screening process for that?
I can speak to the screening process. Yes, we have already talked to a company that does this, and so yes, even though we're going to be in hotels, my assumption is that we're still going to do the screening. It turns out not to be as prohibitively expensive as you might think, and that's already in place for September.
I wasn't.
The other issue is character and fitness for the,
Yeah.
okay.
One thing I should say about the October online exam is we are going, you know, the remote proctoring does involve us recording the entire exam. So we'll have a lot of information for, you know, for character and fitness issues. But yes, I think we will need to remind examinees not to talk about the exam with other people because they are going to get these 30-minute breaks. So I don't know that there's any heightened. I'm not sure that there's any heightened. I mean, they still need to follow the rules, not seek assistance and not give assistance.
They'll be required to sign the pledge.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and you know, we do get character and fitness issues from exams, as y'all know, have for years. And so I think everybody just needs to be reminded of that as part of the exam.
Mr. Odom?
What's our role in administering either of these two exams on exam day, the board? Normally we're there giving instructions and coming and going or staying, whatever. What do we have to do, or what should we be doing or planning to do?
Yeah, we don't, you're not going to really have a specific role. You are always welcome at the hotel testing sites. You know, I would really welcome you to come and observe it and see how it's going. But we're not going to really have a way to deliver instructions. We're going to have to use written instructions for both of these exams. And so there's not a real role for you to fill.
Let me make sure I was not lobbying for a role. I was just asking.
Yeah, but we'd love to have you come. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way for you to attend the online test, but we'd love to have you come and see what's going on with the hotel testing sites.
Mr. Odom, you've been reading the instructions so well for the last 12, 13 years in Houston. I can't break that. Can't break that string.
Miss it.
Good question, though. I'm sure there'll be things as we get closer, Susan, that you'll need our help. And I know everybody's willing to help out any way we can. So, okay, board members, any other questions for Ms. Wong on this, on the plan as outlined by staff?
I just like, I think it's a great idea and well put together, and it looks great. It looks like it's going to work out, you know, under the circumstances as good as anything could work out.
Well, we were admonished by many, right, to think outside the box. And I think this qualifies, guys. I think that's what I meant earlier. I mean, you can tell the minutia that Susan and Nadia are focusing on is incredible. And, you know, there's still, I know what Nadia, it's, you know, you're not quite done packaging it all up yet, but you've got the functional elements laid out and, you know, ready to move forward with it. And
Is there any, or have you passed this through Justice Busby or through the court as far as the September exam? Do you feel a need to do that in any way? Okay.
They've told us to give the exam, so this is how we're going to do it.
I think it's a great idea. I just didn't want any, you know, blowback from anybody for what we're doing, because I think it's awesome.
well, conceptually, everyone will remember that. I mean, Susan actually mentioned this at the time, at the last, you know, a couple of weeks ago.
And I have talked to Justice Busby about it.
Have.
Yeah.
So it's not like this idea, this plan is a surprise. What you're getting are the details that they've been working on nonstop since, you know, since getting the order 2 weeks ago. So, yes, sir, Mr. Oda?
Last question.
Yes.
Is there an urgency in this issue of deciding whether or not we're going to accept the mini UBE from other jurisdictions? I mean, in terms of having to decide that before the September exam or the October online exam?
Examinees would love to know that as soon as possible.
That's what I would figure. And second question is, isn't that a question for, I mean, doesn't the court have to make that decision? We can make a recommendation, but the court has to actually decide that, right?
Well, I thought about that, and
okay.
that would be one way to do it, is with another rule change or an order. I think the board itself may have enough discretion to just do sort of a blanket waiver that, you know, during this time of COVID, UBE transfer applicants can use this mini UBE from states X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Is it past the time to sign up for those mini UBEs, so we're not going to be creating a rush of people going to these states giving the mini UBEs because they think it's a better way of getting into Texas? Is that?
We can't answer that question because every state is doing something different. So I don't know. We can't figure everything out. All we can say is, you know, there's a lot of people that are already signed up to take these online.
Right.
And so we're going to say, if you are signed up for it, or you can sign up for it and you want to do that, the staff is going to recommend to the board that we let people use those scores to transfer into Texas.
Well, for me, it would be an issue of if it's pretty firm at this time that the people who signed up for those are the people who are going to take the exam, and that they're not people who could suddenly change their application and want to go to a state that gives that because they think that's a shorter exam that might be useful. I would have some issues about that, but maybe if I thought about it a little more and you know, till we have our meeting to talk about it, I could be persuaded that it doesn't matter.
You know, we could, if we put that on the agenda for the next meeting, then we could investigate that and find out, you know, give you a list of all the states that are going to use the NCBE materials for their online exam in October and what the status of their application dates are. We could assemble all that information for the next meeting and provide it to you.
That would be helpful. And I hope it's not too much of a burden in terms of you have a lot of other work to do.
No, we can do it. We just haven't yet, but we can.
Since I'm the least, the newest member, was there a time when the UBE would have taken place in 2020? Was that originally part of the plan?
It's recommended, but no.
Recommended, but not, okay.
But the
All
court asked us to administer it in 2021.
Got it.
Ms. Giltner?
Susan and Nadia, thanks for all your great work on this. And it sounds like this is an excellent plan. But if for some reason, and I understand, Susan, what you were saying, that there shouldn't be any reason why we couldn't do it this way. But if there was, I mean, given everything that's happened in this crazy year, it seems like that
Right.
something could happen. Are we going to have some sort of a clause in our contract with, I think it's called Extegrity, I'm probably mispronouncing their name, that would give us an out so that we don't find ourselves in a financial burden if we did have to cancel at the last minute?
Well, it's, yeah. There will be, we don't have that detail negotiated yet, but there will be a date by which we, we'll have to confirm to the hotels
Okay,
that we're going to do it. But, I think we could obviously put some kind of force majeure term in there.
That's what I was gonna say.
I mean, if
we
the
just have to be careful with,
if
just
the
be careful
cities
with
just say you can't move, you can't leave your house, then
No,
we
no.
can't do it.
and again, and just be careful with force majeure because, and again, probably too much detail, but just in with what I do every day, force majeure has not always covered this pandemic. And so just a word of warning. So
We need something very specific.
Yeah.
correct.
Yep.
And
The state bar has a CLE on it and it's free and it's worth listening to.
And so again, I mean, I'm sure that given the way that you've described it, that it's going to go off and that there won't be a problem. But this is a year when things have happened that we haven't anticipated. So
Right.
that's
Great
the only
point.
reason I say that. Not to be negative, just
But be prepared. No, great point, Ms. Giltner. And Ms. Hendricks is nodding and our general counsel, Mr. Cook, is taking notes. So understood. There you go. Thumbs up. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Giltner.
just what I do. So in my day job.
No, it's a great point.
Yeah.
Let me ask a couple of questions. So when we reopen this, for those who wanted to take it in October, but now would say, hey, I think I can take it in September. I'm not so concerned anymore. Can they do that?
They can do that, but they need to do it in the next 2 weeks
Gotcha. Okay.
because I'm proposing July 27th, which I think is a Monday.
As the
I like
deadline.
that. I like that.
Okay. And then just a couple more details, Ms. Wong. I'm not sure in terms of proctoring, as I understood it when we discussed it conceptually, there will be proctors on every floor where we have examinees, right? And
For the exam pods in every
Exactly.
hallway, actually.
every hallway, right?
Yeah. The ratio that's proposed is 1 proctor for every 12 examinees.
Got it.
So you'll have 6 rooms in most hallways. I mean, I haven't seen the hotels, but in most hotels, you'll have 6 rooms on one side of the hallway and 6 on the other side of the hallway. And there'll be 1 proctor to watch those rooms.
Got it.
And then we'll also have staff roaming the building. And we'll probably have a supervising proctor for each floor who will be there to assist the proctors and, if they need to take a break or if they have some unusual situation come up, we'll have supervising staff there and proctors as well.
Susan and Nadia, I want to chime in and thank you for this great work on these plans for the September and October proposed exams. I have a few questions on the September exam. Has the level of detail that we're looking at been communicated to prospective examinees so they can make an informed choice about what they want to do?
Well, I just wrote this thing yesterday, Dwayne.
So the answer to that to be no.
No,
Okay.
because I've been working on how to do this
Okay.
for the last 2 weeks and had multiple discussions with Extegrity to figure out if we could come up with a price and terms that would work for us.
Okay.
So really, we just got that finalized yesterday.
Okay.
So we haven't had a chance to do that, but unless the board says, no, don't do this, and I'm not hearing that, we will be communicating this
Right.
to the applicants after this meeting.
Okay, good. And two questions about the September plan, and one of them dovetails into the October plan. I can imagine applicants looking at it and asking about social distancing, not once they get to their individual room, because, you know, having stayed in a hotel during this pandemic, you still run into people, even though it's just a few people, you still run into people that check in and at checkout and on the elevator. So are we going to make sure that Extegrity addresses those issues as part of its agreement with us? That is to make sure it finds hotels that have some type of social distancing policy. But I've seen in some of the hotel we stayed at, you know, they had markers on the floors and in the elevators, limiting the elevators to 4, that kind of thing as well. That's going to be a question I think applicants would have, and also about the internet in the hotel. I mean, are we going to make sure that you know, we're not going to have a situation where somebody is trying to take the exam, and I know, you know, they really need it when they finish the exam, but make sure that there's still the ability to have consistent and reliable internet access when they need it as part of the exam process.
Okay, Dwayne, this hotel, this is not Motel 6, okay? This hotel chain, I'm not at liberty to name the hotel chain, but it is a major Class A hotel chain, and that I think can provide us reliable service. I mean, you know, anything could happen with the internet beyond
What's
the
Motel
hotel.
6?
Well, you know, it's not, it's a good hotel. Okay.
Okay.
It's a nice hotel. That's what I would call a luxury hotel.
Okay.
And the hotels, yes, will have all kinds of procedures in place for social distancing. And we are going to, as it's stated in the plan, we will provide masks to the proctors and to the examinees, and the examinees are going to be required to wear masks at the hotel when they're not in their personal hotel room. They will be required. And we, you know, we've already got the mask. We've already purchased 5,000 surgical masks. So we've got the masks that we can give to the proctors and to the applicants. And yeah, they don't really need the internet to take the test. They only need it to upload their answers. And in fact, they don't have to upload their answers at the hotel for the ones that are using laptops, just like we currently do at our examination sites. They can go home and upload their answers because their answers are going to be saved on the hard drive of their laptop, and they can upload them from any place that has an internet connection. They don't have to do it at the hotel, but they can, and they should be able to.
Yeah, I mean, we want them to be able to, because again, some of them are going to check out immediately and then get on the road. And they may not get to a place where they have internet access until hours later, past the upload time. So we want to have, I think it's good to have reliable internet there. It's nice to know it's a good chain. Didn't anticipate it'd be Hotel 6. Just want to make sure it's a Motel 6, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so make sure that we can address those issues, because I think plan is a solid plan, but I think it's going to tempt some applicants to maybe consider taking an in-person September exam in an isolated hotel room as opposed to a remote exam in October, especially if they've been studying for a July exam.
Yeah, I think that's possible, and you know, we're prepared for that.
Good questions. Thank you, Mr. Massey. Any other questions for Ms. Wong or Ms. Hendricks on what's been presented thus far? I'm sure, you know, there are, but Nadia's already thinking of them and figuring out answers. And I know you're not done. I mean, this is just getting us through the plans for the September and October administrations.
It's good. We appreciate your feedback. We really do.
You still have, did we cover weighting already sufficiently, do you think? Okay.
No.
So that's next. Okay. Do you want to go into that next? Does that make sense?
Okay.
Was there anything else? anything else on the venue, location, anything else that we need to talk about there?
Do you want me to report on Dr. Bolus, Nadia?
Sure.
Since I'm the one that's talked to him.
Okay,
So
go on.
I've conferred with Roger Bolus, who is a psychometrician that has done psychometric evaluations on our examination and did the report in 2018 that we relied on to suggest alternative weighting for the July examination, which didn't happen. So, but I've also consulted with him about how we're going to scale and score the October online examination. And the main difference between the September exam and the October exam is that NCBE is only going to give us 100 MBE questions for the online exam. And that's true across the country. The September exam will have the usual 200 questions, of which 175 are actually scored. 25 of them are test questions that NCBE is testing and getting data on. So they only score 175. So the difference is you have 175 scored items in September and you only have 100 scored items in October. In conferring with Dr. Bolus, he said because of the reduced number of MBE questions in October, it would be a good idea to go ahead and give our 12 essays. It just gives the applicants more opportunities to demonstrate their knowledge and proficiency. And it makes the exam more reliable in terms of really testing them. Then the question of the weighting comes up. He has recommended that we revert to the weighting that we used in the past when we've had 12 essay questions, which would mean that we would weight the 100 MBEs at 40% and the 12 essays at 40%. I think the thing to keep in mind here is the more weight you give to the MBEs when you only have 100, the more each one counts. So reducing the weighting to 40% on the 100 MBEs will make them count slightly less. I think it's like 4.4 or 0.4. So they'll count slightly less than if we counted them at 50%. I think it's 0.4 versus 0.5 that each one will count.
But the usual weighting, excuse me, would have been, we would have had 40% and 40%, but there would have been 200 MBE questions normally.
In the past, that's how we do it. Now on the UBE that we'll start doing in February, there'll be 200 MBE questions and that'll be weighted 50%. But remember, only 175 count. So when you're looking at how much each question counts, you would only count the ones that are actually scored. So that's the recommendation. And Nadia, do you want to say anything about that, about the weighting?
No, I think that covers it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Board members, any questions about the weighting proposal or the recommendation of staff? And again, I appreciate y'all reaching out to Dr. Bolus, who's recognized in this area, pretty talented psychometrician. He's worked with this board and others across the country before. And so I appreciate y'all consulting with him.
We've retained him to help us score and scale the October exam too, because remember, NCBE is not going to score, or it won't be equated, but we are going to scale it to our former MBE scales that are equated. So it won't really be equated, but it'll be more psychometrically sound.
Did you all consider a weighting of 30% for the 100 MBE questions and 50% for the 12 essays?
No.
Well, sort of. I mean, that was a thought from one of the deans that, it should be based on how much time you spend on each segment.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did talk to Dr. Bolus about
Yeah.
that. And he clarified that that's not the way it works.
Okay, well, that was a question.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. I'd forgotten. We did talk to him about that.
Okay,
Do we have to, I'm sorry, do we have to choose between option 1 and option 2, or we? Or you've chosen?
no, I think they made a recommendation and you all would like for us to formally approve the recommendation, so.
Yeah.
So if there are no other questions, board members, you've heard the recommendation of the weighting for the October online exam as presented by Ms. Hendricks and Ms. Wong. Any further discussion? Do I hear a motion approving the recommendation?
I would move that we go forward with the recommendation of 10, 10, 40, and 40.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Is there a second? Mr. Odom seconds. All in favor indicate by saying aye or raising your hand in the screen. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 8-0. For the record, Mr. McKenzie had a prior commitment, so he has been excused for his absence from the meeting at this point. All right. Next item, preparation of additional exam questions.
I
Did we
think
cover that already?
I think we've covered that. Yes. Yes.
Okay. As well as the grading plan. Susan, did you want to say anything else with respect to the grading plan?
The only other thing about the grading plan is that the board might want to consider expanding the regrade range. And that would be to respond to the concerns that have been so eloquently presented to the board at the last meeting about the difficulties the applicants are facing in their efforts to prepare for the exam. And a lot of them are worried that they're not going to be able to be as prepared as they'd like to be because of all the difficulties that everyone is experiencing right now due to the pandemic. And so I've talked to Dr. Bolus about that, and he thought that would be appropriate to, the truth is that, you know, the 6 points on a 1,000-point scale is a pretty small regrade band. And we could expand it just so that we could have a little extra confidence in the fairness and accuracy of the grading at the margin.
But you know, one of the things that, unlike I think in past exams where individual people are experiencing, you know, individual disruptions to their lives, I think across the board, this time everybody is. And so, you know, one of the things that makes sense to me, and obviously you probably haven't talked to Dr. Bolus about this, but whether any adjustments should be made in the cut score itself. Because we've got situations where, you know, it's not one person who lost a close family member or one person who's having childcare issues, one person who lost a job, one person who wasn't able to study. I mean, we've got just everybody is going through that. And it's not just even in Texas. I mean, it's nationwide. So you've got law students in other states who are planning to take the Texas bar. You know, they're experiencing at some level of life interruption and disruption because of COVID-19. So given that, I would expect some difficulty in preparation across the board. And has any thought been given to making an across the board adjustment, either thinking about that now or once the exams are taken? Because the regrade band is, you know, you assume that somebody makes it to the regrade band, and it's a narrow band as we've talked about. So what about adjustments to the cut score?
Well, we can't change the passing score. The court would have to do that because it's in the rules. But the regrading is completely a board policy. And if you consider, Dwayne, that most of the people that are in regrade end up passing, you know, it's been noted, this is no secret. Stephen Klein said this in one of his previous psychometric reports, that the regrade band, if everyone in the regrades or almost all of them end up passing, you've effectively lowered the passing score. to whatever the bottom number is on the regrade.
So
So
is that happening with the current regrades that we've been doing? I know we've talked about it before.
it's pretty close to almost, I mean, Nadia, you could probably speak to that better. It's pretty close to all of them. It's usually there's a few that don't.
Yeah, it's, yeah, when I first started, it was everybody. But I think after we talked to it's not like that anymore. Getting into the regrade band is no longer a guarantee of passing. I'm not sure what the percentage is, but
It's high.
yeah.
It's probably at least 90%.
I'm just concerned if we expand that band, I mean, we have this deadline for getting the scores done that, you know, it's. When
It's
you
more
have-
work for you.
It's
Yeah.
more work, and I mean, it makes us, to me, it makes us less proficient or less, it requires us to read the exams sort of more quickly unless we just stay up all night. And you know that it's not good to read more than a certain number of them in a day.
Well, keep in mind, Barbara, that right now we have 800 people taking the October exam.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's not going to be like in the summer when we've had 3,000.
Okay, well,
It won't be as many.
So the expanding the regrade band would not apply to the September exam?
Well, it could. We could do it for that too.
I think we should seriously, I'm in favor of expanding the band for both exams. I think that this is, you know, Dwayne mentioned it, we've heard a lot about it. I mean, this is not a normal time. And so I think we should definitely expand the number of people who come within that additional regrade zone or band or whatever we want to call it.
I agree with Mr. Soltero. I would ask what band you would recommend, Ms. Hendricks.
Well, right now it's 6 points. And in my discussions with Dr. Bolus, I think, you know, expanding it 10 or 12 points. So we're still going to be grading, you know, the passing score is still what's in the rules, which is 675. So we, you know, we could move that to 665, or, you know, I would lower it to at least 665. It's 660. Everybody was 616.
69.
Yeah, so we could change it to 665, and I think that would be reasonable.
I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I think
It's lower than that to me.
yeah, it's a good equitable measure to take because we've heard so many different things about what difficulties folks are having studying for the exam, then having it delayed where they have to, you know, make arrangements for income and have less time to study. And I just think it's the right thing to do.
You need a motion on that?
Yeah.
Are you prepared right now? I mean, do you need anything else, Susan? I mean,
You know,
I think you
we've
brought it
got-
up.
We've got grading plan on the agenda, so.
Right. I mean, you brought it up as sort of an idea, and it's been developed, and I just want to make sure you're comfortable that you've done enough consulting with Dr. Bolus, and because I know you also look, Dwayne, the passing score and whether it should be adjusted or not, I can tell you was also considered by Susan and Nadia, and they conferred with Dr. Bolus about it, and so. The expansion of the regrade band is, I think, what they've come up with. I knew that you had it as a idea, but if you're ready for us to go ahead and move on it, it sounds like the board's developed a consensus on it, so we can go forward. If that's okay with you. Okay, so I'm saying, okay.
I've moved that we increase the regrade to a breadth of 10 points.
I second
For
that.
both exams, to clarification, for both exams?
Yes.
Yeah, I think to be fair, sure.
Yes. Okay, who was the second?
I second it.
Okay, Mr. Massey?
Can I just clarify, this is just for these two exams and doesn't apply
That's
like
correct.
the February exam?
That's correct.
Yeah, for one thing, the February exam is going to be on the 200-point scale of the UBE.
Right.
So we're going to have to look at that issue again.
Yes, sir, Mr. Odom? Mr. Odom?
The motion is to expand it to a specific number of points,
665.
as opposed to giving the staff the discretion to adjust the regrade band as appropriate. And I'm just wondering whether that would be, I mean, what happens if y'all look at it and you decide that 10 points is either too much or isn't enough? Do we have to come back and, redo this, or would it be appropriate just to give the staff the authority after further consultation with Dr. Bolus and whoever else they talk to adjust the regrade cut off as appropriate? Or are we not comfortable with that?
And I would do it I'm with you, Al. I think I would do it the other way, which say we've got a number, we've got a guideline, and then I would just say and additional if appropriate, given the Dr. Bolus or other guys. But I want to at least have that as a guidepost, the 10 points.
Yeah, I just don't want to hamstring you guys. Right. If something comes up and then we have to have another meeting before we can deal with it, and maybe we can and maybe we can't. So that would be my suggestion.
Susan,
So I've
Nadia?
amended my motion to include those concepts of that discretion to move it if the staff with our psychometrician advises us.
Master, you okay with that?
I second, as long as the movement would be to expand it even further.
So a minimum of 10.
Right.
Like that, minimum of 10. Okay, so the motion, just to clarify, is to give staff discretion to expand for the purposes of the September in-person and October online bar examinations, the discretion to expand the regrade band to a minimum of 10 points. Is that the motion? Sort of? Oh.
I don't think that's the motion.
It also includes that it's for these two summer bar exams, and recognizes that the staff could increase that spread if appropriate based on their consultation with our psychometrician and observation of the exam administration.
Ms. Wong, is that it? Okay, good. And it was seconded by Mr. Massey. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, then all in favor indicate by saying aye or raising your hand in the screen. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. Great point, Mr. Massey, and thank you all for chiming in on that. All right. What's next? Have we covered everything now? Because I think that was the grading plan under your report, Ms. Wong.
Could I ask at some time that we take a short break? Just
Yeah, we're gonna.
I'm on battery, and when you use I keep forgetting that when you use this Zoom platform, it sucks your battery dry.
Yeah.
I need to go back forward.
Staff attorneys, do we need to have a report, Mr. Cook and Ms. Bradshaw? Can we defer on that? I don't think we need to go into closed session for that. Is that right?
You should have a copy of the litigation report prepared earlier in the week. There's no changes at all, so we can move on.
Okay.
So in fact, Lynn and I are signed up for this presentation of the Austin Bar. So if we may, we'd like to be excused.
Yeah. You may. Thank you both very much,
Thank
counsel.
you.
Appreciate your help through all of this. Y'all take care and stay safe. Okay, at this time, at 11:55, we're going to take a short 5-minute break. And so for everyone who is watching, when we come back, we will take up public comments and allow members of the public who wish to address the board a time of 1 minute to speak to the board. Okay, let's take a break. Keep yourselves logged in, but you can stop your video at this time and mute.
Okay.
Okay. Board members, are we back? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
What the heck just happened?
What's that?
My screen just, there we go.
Okay, Ms. Giltner, Mr. Odom, Mr. Soltero, Ms. Ellis, Ms. Massey, Ms. McKim, Ms. Orr. Cynthia, are you back? Okay, board members, just as heads up, we're going to follow now the protocol that we followed last time for public comments. They'll be bringing in 3 members of the public at a time, and they will be allowed 1 minute to express public comment. And we'll see how expeditiously we can take care of that. So,
Do we have an estimated number of the people who are going to comment?
less than 30, I believe.
Thank you.
And obviously, Mr. Chair, we typically, the public comment is not a question and answer going back and forth session. It's just an opportunity for people to comment, correct?
That's the Texas Open Meetings Act
Correct.
limitation. Yeah, exactly.
And Mr. Chair, I have an obligation with State Bar CLE at 2 o'clock, so I'll need to sign off at least by 1:40, 1:45.
Thank you. Okay. Lori, Kai, are we ready?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, is the YouTube is engaged and running, and so we're
Yes,
up
sir.
live? Okay, very well. Okay, so let's formally reopen the meeting at 12:06. We are back from our break. Board members, on the agenda, we had the annual evaluation of the executive director. I'm making a call that we're going to go ahead and defer on that for the moment. And at this time, we'll go ahead and consider agenda item 3, communications from the public. And for everyone who would like to make a public comment, you can log into the Zoom and you will be kept in the waiting room until you're brought in. We're going to bring members of the public in 3 at a time. You will have 1 minute, and that will be your opportunity to provide comment to the board. I just want to let everyone know that this is being done in accordance with the rules and the requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act, which do not allow us to engage in an interactive conversation. You are allowed, you are given the right to make comments, and obviously we're all online and listening, and we will take it accordingly. But if you do not hear us respond or explain anything back, it is not us being rude or ignoring you. Far from it. We want to hear from you, and we appreciate the time that you're taking to provide us with input. But that's the way that public comment operates. So let's go ahead and begin. If you would, members of the public, please identify yourself by name. And Ms. Gonzalez, our administrative assistant, will be keeping time, and we'll let you know when the time is up. So I see Dean Barry and Dean Baines. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Yes, sir. Dean Barry, you're first up.
Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Just 3 points very quickly. Number 1, I want to endorse the statements earlier of those who recommended that scratch paper be allowed for the examinees, particularly an MPT, which is 28 pages long with 1 screen, would be very challenging to do. Second, I appreciate the comments of Mr. Massey with respect to looking at the cut score, recognizing that that is a Supreme Court decision, considering what the decision consistency would be between the exams and between previous exams, considering that for the court's approval and something that the board might consider. And the third is, If the September exam is going to be in individuals rather than in larger spaces, there may be a significant number of people who are interested in that because many people were afraid of taking exams in a large environment. That may require a significant number of folks. Considering locations in San Antonio and some other locations may be necessary depending on the volume of people that attend. Thank you very much.
Good points. Thank you very much, Dean. Appreciate all your input. Next, is it Dean Baines?
Yes,
Okay.
I agree with my colleague Dean Barry. He had made some really great points. I guess the one thing I appreciate what the board has done. I think some of the innovations that you have with the September and October exam are very well thought out. I guess I had more concerns about the September exam and the hoteling, and I just was very concerned about security issues among the test takers in the hotel, and also specifically about sort of as one of the board members had, what happens if in fact we can't leave our homes, for instance, which has happened in other parts of the world. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you both. Appreciate what you're doing. Miss Shanna Kelly, Miss Kelly? I'm sorry, you're on mute, Miss Kelly. You're muted.
I'm Shanna Kelly. I'm a 2020 graduate of the University of Houston Law Center. In 10 days, the Americans with Disabilities Act turns 30. This legislation, along with its 08 amendments and the Rehabilitation Act, work in concert to assure that no one is denied equal access to the privileges and benefits of society because of their disability. In my July 1 letter to the Supreme Court of Texas, I urged that should they determine that an online examination is the most prudent method, the BLE be required to consider examinees with disabilities when designing and implementing the exam. As information has come out, it is obvious that under some iterations of the administration, full considerations have not been given to these examinees. Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act requires that individuals with disabilities have access to information, data, and technology in a manner comparable to that provided to individuals without disabilities. This standard applies to the development and procurement of technology, and Texas has adopted these requirements and applied them to their own agencies. Yet, when I contacted ILG 360, I was informed they do not and cannot make reasonable accommodations to the program that will be used to administer the October bar exam. Instead, I was informed by Ms. Wong that after I contacted her that accommodated examinees will be expected to test in person should they wish to utilize our accommodations. This leaves, can I have a few minutes since I had muted, or a few seconds since I was muted?
I didn't start until you actually started speaking.
That's okay. Go ahead, Ms. Kelly. You can finish your statement.
Thank you. This leaves examinees with disabilities with a choice between two unreasonable and inaccessible options: to forfeit accommodations or test in unsafe conditions. This choice is a denial of equal service and an effective denial of accommodations. It also discounts examinees like myself with multiple impairments. I have both a learning disability and a condition leaving me with a suppressed immune system, and I don't know how I'm supposed to make this choice. I was offered by Ms. Wong that if I submitted paperwork, I may be able to get a private room, but this still leaves me vulnerable during check-in, if I have to use the restroom, or if I need to leave my exam during lunch, or also while exiting the testing center. There will be many opportunities over 2 days for exposure, and I do not feel this is reasonable. So I again urge you to consider examinees like me and implement a method that works in concert with the mission of the State Bar to promote diversity in the administration of justice and the practice of law for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry, Kai, let me let you call the order.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Next on the list was actually E. Kern 75.
Okay.
User, can you speak? I don't show that you have an active mic. Okay. Looks like I'm going to move that one back to the waiting room. Next will be Miss Catherine Vestal.
Ms. Vestal?
Hi, my name is Catherine Vestal, and I'm a graduate of the University of Houston Law Center. My comment addresses the effect of this board continuing forward with the proposed exams. As gatekeepers, this board made us aware that their duty is to prevent incompetent lawyers. This has always been done by administering an exam of minimum competency. By going forward with an exam that examinees cannot write on or highlight, it tests far more than minimum competency. It will keep out examinees who would have otherwise passed the exam. And at no point in an attorney's legal career will they be required to answer a question without taking notes. The board should consider allowing examinees to take notes no matter how the exam is administered. Additionally, this board should propose to the Supreme Court of Texas that the cut score be lowered. It is the only fair option under the conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vestal. Appreciate your input.
Next, we have Andrea Reed.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Reed. Thank you.
Yes, Andrea Reed. I'm a 2020 grad from SMU Dedman School of Law. Chairman Rivera, members of the board, and BLE staff, thank you so much for taking additional public comment. We learned a lot of new information today about both September and October, but there are 3 issues which I know you can't answer at the moment, but that I think are important to have so we can make informed decisions. The first is more about the nature of proctoring in October. Specifically, will it be done through a third-party service or through ILG? And if there is a tech failure, can examinees still handwrite if it is all remote? Second question is if there will be any additional waivers that examinees will be asked to sign, either related to COVID or technology, and if those will be available before we have to choose. And then my final question relates to the October weighting. And Ms. Hendricks, thank you very much for the detail you provided. I had one remaining question, which was just if the Texas essays will still be scaled to the MBE scores. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time today, Ms. Reed. Next.
Next, we have Nicole Schultz.
Ms. Schultz.
Hi, yes. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear our questions again. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all. One question that I would like addressed is in relation to the online October exam. I've heard something as simple as moving your lips while you read without even actually speaking might get you disqualified. So like many students, I have to slow down when reading. And although I do better whenever I hear the question aloud, I move my lips silently as I read to kind of get a better grasp on the question and separate the facts from other fact patterns that I recently read. So if you would please answer that eventually for those of us who struggle with this and even do it habitually without knowing that we do it, if this would disqualify us or forfeit our exam, that would be very helpful.
Thank you for the question and comment, Ms. Schultz. Appreciate it.
And next we have Ashley Phillips.
Ms. Phillips, welcome.
Hi, my name is Ashley Phillips. I'm a 2020 law school graduate from Texas A&M School of Law. A law school classmate and I got engaged about 7 months ago, and we've been planning on getting married in December since then. These changes that have been made are coming dangerously close to forcing us to cancel our wedding because of the budget that we had when we were supposed to be working full-time in August and with a lawyer's salary in October. We will also be living in a 1-bedroom apartment with 2 dogs at the time of the October exam. I understand there are people with much worse problems than these, but this is just my individual struggle and my perspective. But regardless of our situations, all students need to know when we will be able to support ourselves consistently. With that being said, I have some pressing concerns. First, the BLE definitely needs to provide space for October. Testing at law schools will not be a viable option because the schools may not even be open this fall, and they certainly won't be under the testing circumstances that you're requiring. Law firms will not be a viable testing center either. You're asking lawyers to shut down their firms from clients coming in on a Monday and Tuesday for a 2 full-day exam with the webcam, the individual rooms, and the no pet requirements that you're putting on us. Second, we need a commitment to a specific date of when we will have our results. In my situation, this will only determine whether or not I can pay my rent and bills, but also whether or not I can afford a wedding that's been months in preparations. Third, the layout of the October exam, particularly the way you're splitting the essays into 3 different times and without scratch paper, is now pushing us to prepare for a completely different exam than the 7 weeks plus of training we've already put in. This is putting us at a severe disadvantage for passing your bar exam. Additionally, we will not have plenty of time to practice with your software. Many students, including myself, have had to start working full-time to support themselves. In fact, the Tarrant County District Attorney's Office just canceled their post-bar internship because of the bar exam being pushed back. So some students are even having to find non-legal jobs. 11 days is not enough time to make this decision. July takers, we don't even have an option of registering for a September exam right now. So there might be a lot more students than y'all are anticipating. There are valid and justified reasons for being non-traditional this year, including changing the exam formats or allowing an apprenticeship that would still allow us to prove our competence. What is happening right now is not pandemic proof or conducive to us as examinees at all. Please find a way to give us answers immediately to alleviate at least some of our stress while we are scrambling to try to find ways to support ourselves and our families, and while we're studying for the bar exam at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Next, we have Alexis Yelvington.
Ms. Yelvington.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. Hello, my name is Alexis, and I am a researcher at Texas A&M. I echo all the speakers' concerns that have already spoken today, but I would like to use my time to talk about my concerns regarding those students with learning disabilities that are undiagnosed or unaccommodated. I'm dyslexic, but never utilized accommodations while in law school because of the costs associated with getting the necessary documentation. I will be speaking to my experience, but I'm not alone. About 44% of adults with learning disabilities do not seek accommodations in their higher education pursuits. Throughout law school, I heavily depended on printed out materials. Scrolling through page after page of text on a computer screen is nearly impossible for me, and I'm sure it is for a lot of people. Luckily, this has never really presented that major of an issue until now. Students who have never needed an accommodation may require one for an online test. Unfortunately, the process for getting an accommodation is costly and time intensive. Because I need physical materials, I'll be taking the test in September, putting myself and all my family members at risk. All my family members are in the high risk category, so I am very concerned about this. I asked the board to consider those with disabilities, including those that have never been accommodated before. And due to these challenges and others mentioned today, I believe that alternative licensure program is most appropriate, but at a bare minimum, I ask that the bar consider that accommodations be made for the October exam for those who need them.
Thank you, Ms. Yelvington.
Next, we have Stephanie Bauer.
Hi, Ms. Bauer.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Great. I'm a recent graduate from UNT Dallas College of Law. And I just wanted to remind the board that when we work on these questions, we all take notes and annotate. Every board member has done this in the past, and I would ask the board to accommodate those of us that can either go to our law school or be proctored by the BLE in October to get a paper exam. And thanks for the ability to give that recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer.
Next, we have Michael Aragon.
Mr. Aragon.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Michael Aragon, and I'm a May 2020 graduate of the University of Houston Law Center. Regarding the issue brought up today by Director Nadia Hong, I asked the board to consider accepting bar exam scores from other states administering online bar exams featuring components provided by the NCBE on October 5th and 6th. Texas is unique from other states affected by the pandemic as it is transitioning to UBE status, meaning it is not offering the UBE until February, but began accepting UBE scores in December 2019. For this reason, many recent law school graduates plan to take the UBE in another jurisdiction and transfer their quotable score back to Texas. The pandemic has broken the system of affordability and left many students stranded taking a non-UBE bar exam in a UBE jurisdiction. In response, other states have already entered into reciprocity agreements for the October 5th and 6th online bar exam provided by the NCBE. For determining competency, Texas could use the so-called online mini UBE bar exam score or use the same NCBE provided components of the exam model after the MBE and MPT that Texas will administer itself on the same day. This would provide relief for the many recent graduates that signed up for the UBE, but no longer have the opportunity to take the UBE. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aragon.
Next, we have Foster Baird.
Mr. Baird.
Sorry. My name is Foster Baird. I am a recent graduate of University of Houston Law Center, and I really only have 2 quick points to make here about the July 3rd order that I would like you to pass on to your superiors. So first, when addressing an authority that I wish to maintain a good faith relationship with for the rest of my life, typically I have to provide some level of sourcing for what I'm saying. That is especially the truth when what I am saying goes against the greater weight of the evidence and the authorities presented. So to that end, I would request that the Supreme Court provide a list of all epidemiologists, medical scientists, outside testing experts, and other authorities that they considered when they were making their July 3rd decision. Beyond that, they should also provide the same courtesy for any other decision made from now on. Now, second, this goes to some points that were made by Ms. Shana Kelly earlier, one of my colleagues. She's brilliant, but I'd like to add any version that involves any version of this plan that you guys come up with, any version of the plan that the Supreme Court comes up with that involves choice is not in fact a celebration of liberty, but in fact it is an impediment to anybody who is disabled or otherwise. I'll explain. It gives a facially neutral reason for employers to discriminate against those people based on their discrimination. Now, this would be apparent to anybody who had participated in the discussions about grading this last semester, the optional pass-fail versus the mandatory pass-fail, because the election could have been something that an employer took and made a facially neutral judgment about the person, and then taken away their job, taken away their opportunity with coverage from the law. So finally, I think I'm going to add one last point. I've stayed in plenty of nice hotels over my life period. Not one of them has unquestionable Wi-Fi. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baird.
Next, we have Rohit Dar.
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you to Mr. Rivera and the board for allowing public comments in this particular meeting. My name is Rohit Dar. I am a 2020 graduate of Baylor Law School. And the main thrust of my comment in particular will be regards to the October online exam. I have three main concerns or questions. The first is regard to whether the board believes reasonably that they have the capacity and or infrastructure to support and or accommodate September examinees if in the likelihood that a September in-person exam is canceled due to COVID numbers being at the yard or worsening, whether most, if not all, September examinees that go to take the October online exam, or the infrastructure is there to support that increased number of servers and just people taking the exam. Second is in regards to what are the policies, procedures that you all have in mind to specifically for examinees that have internet connection going on the day of the exam, or persons, pets, or just particular sounds appearing on the screen. Because in California, their policies are that if those things were to show up, that's an automatic fail. Are you all considering that to be the outcome for those particular situations, or all the alternative means or outcomes that you have in mind? The third is regards to whether or not you all have considered the prospect or likelihood of cheating to occur with an online exam. The online exam for the October, there are numerous 30-minute breaks in which certain people, not to say I would be willing to do so, but certain people would be willing to cheat through using outlines, talking to other individuals. And these three concerns are important to me because in the likelihood that a September exam doesn't happen, the October exam will be the main determination of minimum competency. And I think these concerns gets in the way and the goal for you, the board, to ensure that there is an evaluation of minimum competency for people to go into the legal profession.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here today.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Emily Seaman.
Ms. Seaman?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Great. My name is Emily Seaman. I'm a 2020 graduate of the University of Houston, and I have 2 quick points to make. First, one of the themes that I heard from people's comments both last meeting and this meeting is that people need certainty about when we will be able to start earning income, when we'll be able to get healthcare, and nobody really asked for options, but we are getting a lot of options that have really dire consequences, including if you have to take into account many different variables, including whether you're better at multiple choice or essays, whether you want to take a test that will be scaled or unscaled, whether you do better online or in person, whether you need to have paper to mark up, and adding more variables in addition to economic and health concerns is not ideal right now. Secondly, I'm concerned with how flippant people seem to be taking the health concerns that will exist in September, even if we're given our own hotel rooms. Hotel rooms are only as clean as the hotel staff makes them. Many people will be checking in and out at the same time, especially if you're mandating that people leave as soon as they're done with the exams. You're going to have hundreds of people arriving and leaving at the same time, going in the same elevators and stairwells. So I do want to echo the law examiner who made the comment that we need a date when this will be called by. Also, I do not think it's full steam ahead. Many hotels have closed down and stopped letting out rooms. And I think that's a very real possibility when there's upwards of 7,000 new cases a day in Texas. Also, I will echo the concerns for Wi-Fi. And if we will not be monitored by video camera, which somebody said, if we won't need Wi-Fi, will we be required to leave our hotel room doors open so the proctors in the hall can see us? And if so, it's not really a closed room at that point and is much less secure than being in your own closed room. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Seaman.
Next, we have Miriam Gafar.
Hi, Hi, good afternoon. My name is Miriam Gafar. I'm a graduate of the University of Houston Law Center, and I want to start by first thanking the board for taking up the issue of the regrade band as recognition that applicants in this cycle are dealing with immense pressure and that it's not a year like any other. I did want to share some concerns, thoughts that I had after hearing the September administration and echo some of the things that Emily Seaman just said. I believe answers to these questions are critical for us applicants as we prepare to, as we're studying for this exam. Though providing individual rooms to each test taker is a unique and creative way to combat the health and safety issues, there are still test taking concerns that we need answers to, though I understand that we won't be able to get the answers today. First, how exactly will the exam materials be passed out to each room? Will each applicant start at a different time, or will all the applicants stand at their doors of each floor and listen to the directions of the proctors and then rush to their desks to start the exams at the same time? Will our doors remain open during the examination periods for proctors to walk in and out of? Will these proctors be required to wear masks for 8 hours? Will we be allowed to bring watches to keep time since a large clock is no longer feasible? Or does the ILG software have a timekeeping mechanism? Will there be staggered check-in to prevent a mass influx and exodus of students in the hotel lobby? And also, like, what technology will examinees be able to bring into their hotel rooms with them for 2 days, especially considering we're going to be staying there? How will the BLE ensure safety concerns? For example, as a former public school teacher, we were required to take up all cell phones before administering state exams. Will the proctors take up all of our other technologies, such as Apple Watches and cell phones? A corollary concern to this is how will the BLE ensure that examinees are not using bar prep materials during the exam, for example, in their private restrooms during breaks? That is a huge concern for me. And finally, does the hotel know that cleaning staff is not supposed to be working on these floors during the examination time? We can all imagine how a vacuum could be extremely distracting while you're trying to take the bar exam. And finally, for those students coming in from outside jurisdictions who may be required to quarantine before and after the test, will the BLE be able to negotiate affordable rates for those students who need to pay out of pocket to stay in these hotels for an extended period of time? These are just a few of the questions that came to my mind. My objective is not to detract from holding the hotel examination. It's just that there are a lot of nuanced concerns because all we want is to get a score that we and our employers can be confident in. And I hope we can get these answers that help retain the integrity of the exam, but also minimize distractions for us test takers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gafar.
Next is Thomas Samuelson.
Mr. Samuelson.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to jump straight into it. My first question is how is ILG 360 on the online exam going to comply with their format in regards to the web content accessibility guidelines of the ADA? The second question is in regards to proctoring. Are the proctors going to be in compliance with FERPA or the Texas Student Privacy Act of 2013? And if there is a violation of that by them by giving it to another party, like they had possibly concerned in their case in Georgia, which went up to the 11th Circuit, would they be immune, and would the Board of Law Examiners still be immune under Rule 21 of the Board of Law Examiners rules? The next question is in regard to cybersecurity. At the current case, the situation in their past case in the 11th Circuit, they had a number of situations where they weren't doing routine checks on errors. And furthermore, how are we sure that we're not going to face another issue of that again? And then finally, my question is regards to minutes that came about in the May meeting. It's just a question of clarification. There was a statement that there was minimal impact on the BLE server as a result of the May 8th ransomware attack. Was there minimal impact to the integrity of any data in the system, or was there no impact to the system? Because either way, the question I think that needs to be resolved under the Texas Data Breach Notification Act is, were any of the individuals notified within 60 days? And being that 60 days passed, I guess that's a no based off of Susan's shake, which is good. That's excellent. Finally, my main concern in regards to the hotel is how are we going to prevent what happened in 2003, the 2003 SARS epidemic, which a large amount of people died as a result of exposure out of a Hong Kong hotel. And this actually even continued after more methods and implementation was put into effect in China. So that's a concern. And then finally, how are we sure that a company, ILG 360, which is largely a little bit less than 50 employees, majority of which are in Turkey, 8 hours ahead of us, and of a small percentage of that actually deal with the implementation, the maintaining of the software, going to keep the system from not crashing like the STAR exam did, the MCAT did a few years ago, the college boards did this year, the Australian medical boards did this year, the Canadian medical boards did this year, Canadian diploma exam did, the Australian respiratory therapy exam, the FCAT multiple times in Florida, the GRE, the Indiana test, the Minnesota aptitude test multiple years, the PARC, which is out of Colorado, New Jersey, multiple, as well as the standards of learning in Virginia. I mean, how are we going to ensure that this small company is going to prevent same issue that much larger companies have experienced with actually smaller quantity of individuals in some of those cases, and even bigger number in other cases? I mean, that's a big concern. And it's especially a big concern because we got the Texas Student Privacy Act in place. Or in some individual cases, we got CCPA because we have some individuals who work in California, which has a long arm statute. So with that, I thank you for your time. I just mostly just clarifications on that in your FAQs would be great. And thank you very much.
Mr. Samuelson, thank you.
Next, we have Taylor Calvert.
Ms. Calvert.
Hi. So I just want to say that I echo everything that has been said before, but I'm specifically going to speak about some issues that are going to impact my colleagues and I from Texas Tech. I believe Mrs. Hendricks came to us earlier this year, and she didn't necessarily say take the UBE, but everybody walked away feeling really comfortable with taking the UBE after speaking or listening to her presentation. And so about 2/3 of us are signed up for the UBE. And you did mention adjusting the grade band for the Texas bar exam. So I would also hope that you consider maybe lowering the score for a transfer UBE, because we are also facing the same hardships regarding studying and things of that nature as Texas applicants are facing. And I'm assuming that's an issue for the Supreme Court. So if you could recommend that, that would be great. And that's all I have. I really do think that maybe apprenticeship is still the better option and more fair, but I understand the position you guys are in. But if you could make it more fair for all of us, including the UBE applicants, that would be great, greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Calvert.
Next, we have Lorna Rose.
Hi, Ms. Rose.
Hello, thank you. Again, I echo everything that's already been said. I'm a graduate of law school, actually in New England law, Boston, and I now live in Texas, where I am hoping to at some point sit for a bar exam and start practicing. But what's really come to my attention is, you know, in the midst of a global health pandemic, plus the turmoil caused by racial injustice across the country, it's really more important than ever that law school graduates not be forced to choose between protecting our health and pursuing the profession we've worked so hard for. Testing in any form under these conditions, it will only measure which graduates have the necessary access to resources, and it only provides yet another barrier to competent law school graduates from entering and making much needed contributions to the profession and practice of law. I think any attorney that you speak with that's been practicing for decades will tell you that the bar exam was never going to be an indicator of how well they performed or how poorly, how competent they were or were not, how dedicated they were to the profession or were not. It's an unnecessary hazing ritual for people who have spent so much time and so much money becoming skilled at experts at this specific field, just to have this barrier put in front of us yet again. And again, in the midst of the pandemic, there's really no safe, reasonable alternative bar exam except for granting licensure under diploma privilege, as other states are considering. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rose.
Next, we have Hayden Anthony.
Mr. Anthony, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon.
I just have a couple of points. One of which being yesterday, the state of Louisiana canceled their bar exam. They had an in-person and a remote examination, and they canceled both of them. And I was wondering if the board had spoken with any of their colleagues over in Louisiana to see why the remote examination was canceled. Is there an issue that we should be concerned about, possibly dealing with proactively? Second, if the September exam is not pandemic proof and everyone must be graded on the October exam, is there a way to comply with the Supreme Court's recommendation to get those done by December 4th? If the amount that are already scheduled would be hard to grade by then, I assume that the September exam would also make that very hard to get those done by. And my last point is more of a concern. This board, in its meeting 2 weeks ago, did not speak with the BLEs of Utah and Washington regarding their diploma privilege and other things. But apparently we have been talking to the California BLE for this meeting regarding other issues. That lack of communication doesn't really bode well for the BLE, and I hope you all would take this under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony.
Next, we have Ryan Musser.
Mr. Musser?
Yes, thank you so much. Just wanted to address a few concerns that have been mentioned, but a little different for the internet regarding the October exam. First of all, I want to thank Ms. Hendricks for explaining a little bit more about the September exam. Given the options, I would definitely be leaning toward the September exam. And one of the reasons is because of the difficulty, I think, in the streaming of so many video monitoring abilities from the actual exam software. Unlike Zoom, which is still having problems when we try to stream this much video, this software will also be backing up our exam as we go. And if you do have a testing center where several people are having 6 hours of live uncompressed video streamed to a server, that's going to really cause issues with the ability to video proctor. And so that would be one of my concerns. And the other thing is, in the October exam, I just want to echo what one of the deans was saying, the MPT specifically. I'm a 38-year-old student. When I started education, I was not dealing with as many electronic online versions of testing. And so for me to try and scroll through the 28 pages of MPT testing, my Barbary prep material has no online testing for the MPT. Everything I have is paper. So the day that I would take that exam would be the first time I would even try to do it without scratch paper, without multiple screens. That would be very intimidating to me. I would fly to any other exam than one that had that. Just wanted to give you that impression as a student. I thank you so much for your time and your hard work.
Mr. Musser, thank you. Appreciate you being here. Kai?
Sorry, I apologize. We have Mr. Baker Beers.
Mr. Beers.
Thank you. First, I would like to say that we are entering, hopefully, into a profession based and grounded in ethics, and that it should only be fair to treat us, the examinees, as equally ethical as people who are already licensed in the state. My points are mainly going to be about scratch paper. I'd like to echo the points of Dean Barry, Dean Byers, Ryan Musser, Alexis Yelvington, Stephanie Bauer, that scratch paper enables us to think and plan and be much more articulate. And I know because I just took notes on all these people in this session. And in addition to, thank you, that you can see me and my workspace in front of me on my webcam, which is affixed to my screen. And so if you were already going to be recording people for the October exam, you should also allow us to use scratch paper. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Beers.
Next, we have Zane Pluthner.
Mr. Pluthner.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having this meeting, and thank you for, keeping on top of this really, really important issue. I spoke a couple of weeks ago, and I advocated for an apprenticeship program, and I still think that is the best way to move forward. But I also want to say I'm really encouraged by all the work that you all have done to have a viable and safer alternative to a grand scale in-person bar. But the reason I'm still on board with the apprenticeship program is, one of the things that Mr. Samuelson pointed out a little while ago is how easily some of these systems can crash. I mean, the AP exam that he pointed out, there were other medical exams, the MCAT. And if that happens, I mean, we're just put in a really bad situation because we've spent so long preparing for this. And I mean, what's the alternative then? That we have to take another bar exam? And the fact that this is some company from Turkey with 50 people that are monitoring the situation doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence that everything is going to go off without a hitch. I really do respect you guys and really do appreciate the work that you all are doing. And I know that you are doing everything you can to make sure that the next batch of lawyers that comes out is competent and ready to practice law. But as a student who has sacrificed a lot to get to this point, I personally don't appreciate feeling like I'm a bit of a guinea pig here in the situation that's going on. The last thing I want to say is that there was, at the last meeting, one of the deans spoke up and said, we can work through the Independence Day weekend and get an apprenticeship plan figured out and put in place. And I think that comment didn't really get acknowledged, but like I said, I'm actually pretty pleased with the plan that we've got now. But I think that as a good faith gesture, we should explore all options. And if the deans are willing to come out with a plan, we can't predict the future. We don't know how bad things are going to get. I think we should at least have a plan in place as a contingency. So thank you again for your time. And, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Appreciate it.
Next, we have Portia Allen.
Ms. Allen?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So, can you guys set a date where you confirm whether or not students will be for sure able to take the September exam? I know that Ms. Hendricks mentioned that for sure as of now, since a lot of examinees have moved to the October proctoring of the exam, that space is available. But I predict that now, since you guys have provided more parameters and information regarding both exams, that more people will switch back to September. And so people that have taken the July, or that were supposed to take the July exam, they're still kind of left in limbo because we don't know whether or not you guys will prioritize the original September takers over the July takers. And so I would just urge you guys to consider giving us a concrete date on when we will for sure know which exam we're taking, since they are different. And then also, can y'all consider allowing people to possibly arrive at the hotel at different times, just to ensure that examinees are social distancing? And we also need clarification on whether students are supposed to leave the exam each day as soon as it's complete, or if students are allowed to remain in the same hotel room until the administration of the day 2 exam. I think that something that would allow students to remain in the exam or in the exam hotel room throughout the night would cut down on the spread of coronavirus. But I don't think that you guys should make it mandatory, because people may have other obligations that they have to do outside of the hotel. And then lastly, mostly for the October proctor of the exam, so my understanding is that it will be a webcam that's going to monitor students. So will there be a way, if someone's Wi-Fi goes out, will there be a way that, well, I guess there won't be a way for you guys to let the person know that their Wi-Fi has gone out and that they're no longer being proctored through the site. And this is a concern because it's not fair for a student for a student's whole exam to be voided just because of a Wi-Fi connectivity issue. So I urge you guys to consider how you guys will address this as well, because Wi-Fi can be unpredictable.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Next, we have Chad Leeper.
Mr. Leeper.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to echo all of my colleagues today that have talked about worries about the infeasibility and the impracticability of the upcoming exams. I want to focus right now on the October exam coming up, and specifically on the scheduled layout that you have on your FAQs of doing a P&E, MPT, essays, and then splitting the essays with MBE questions. Personally, I would urge you to reconsider that and do all of the essays in one day, as you have scheduled to do in September, doing the MBE on a separate day from the essays, so that we can all kind of organize ourselves and tackle different parts of the test as a whole without having to split up and do different parts at different times. I would also urge you to allow scratch paper in the exam. I live with my boyfriend who works at a hospital as a physical therapist, and so I don't feel comfortable going to a September exam and potentially being a good vector there. So I have opted to take the October exam, and I don't feel that I should be disadvantaged by that, by not being allowed to write things down when that's been the study schedule that I've had for the past 3 or more months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leeper.
Next, we have Hector Garza.
Mr. Garza.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Hector Garza. I'm originally from Hidalgo, Edinburgh, Texas. I have family right now that's currently at the epicenter of a pandemic, and I have a father who works in Corpus Christi and Nueces County, both of which have been receiving FEMA trucks to store bodies that were killed and died from COVID. This pandemic isn't just a thing. It's been an absolute nightmare for me dealing with the study. I was not paying attention to the meeting today until I heard about a hotel recommendation for the September examination. That's when I started listening. I signed up for September because I need to be able to provide for myself, because my family right now is working through a pandemic to support me throughout my process. But when I heard about a hotel examination, hotels have been open for travelers, for possible vectors throughout this pandemic that's right now at about 290,000 Texans infected. I don't have health care. If I get infected, I have to deal with that. My family has to deal with that. I'm urging the board to please reconsider the realities that we as examiners are going through financially, mentally, and just health-wise. Apprenticeship is an adequate way to examine us, to test our competency. Put me through 500 hours of work under a competent and great attorney, and I'll be a pretty darn good one. Please reconsider, because right now it's not business as usual. It's a pandemic that is a nightmare. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garza.
Next, we have John Sibbles.
Hello.
Yes.
My name is Sean Sibbles. I'm a 2020 graduate of SMU Dedman School of Law. Just want to thank you first for taking public comment, for your time in addressing these unprecedented issues. First, I'd like to reiterate the concerns of other examinees regarding financial pressures due to delayed licensure. For many, waiting on bar results before beginning employment is not a luxury we can afford. So I appreciate your dedication to having licenses issued before 2021. But I worry that further delays to bar results, for example, in the worst case scenario that the September exam is canceled due to government restrictions, will altogether prohibit many graduates from entering the profession. And second, I'd like to echo the concerns brought by Thomas Samuelson and Zane Pluthner regarding previous attempts to administer online exams on a large scale. Many examinees, myself included, are worried that a massive software failure will result in the unjust failing of a large number of examinees. And finally, I did not hear addressed in this meeting, but I may have missed it, so forgive me if I did, whether September examinees will be able to register for the October bar if the September exam has to be canceled outside of the October registration period. So I just hope that guidance issued after this meeting will address that issue. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sibbles.
Next, we have Scott Nelson.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes, thank you for your time this morning.
I appreciate the September exam. I appreciate the creativeness of this and being outside the normal, what we've always done. I did have some questions on whether or not previous student just asked whether we have to check out every day or check back in. For those of us that are traveling, apparently San Antonio is not a spot for a hotel, but that we would be traveling back and forth. Can we spend the night? Do we have to spend a night in that hotel? Do we have to go find another hotel? Bathroom breaks, things like that, as far as the format, what we're doing in the hotel room. And then there's also the concern that even though this is an airborne virus that could be recycled through the ventilation system, and how far do we take this, whether it's a whole doomsday kind of scenario. I've been preparing for law school, or when I started law school, I knew I had to take a bar exam. I studied for 3 years. I graduated law school. I was totally prepared to take a bar exam. July has come. It's here. It was canceled. And now the can got kicked down the road to September. If September for some reason gets canceled, then we're going to be pushed into October. At some point, I knew I needed to take an exam. I was prepared to do so. With everything that's going on, I really would like to urge you guys to reconsider the apprenticeship program and things that could happen. Barbary will tell you that if we complete over 85% of it, we graduated within a certain percentage of our GPA, ranked in class. There's so many metrics out there that both commercial bar prep companies and the schools have that would show virtually the best probability of somebody passing. Those metrics can be used and models can be formulated to back up an apprenticeship program and show competency and character and fitness for going forward. I appreciate that. I hope I didn't go over my 1 minute.
You're good. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
And last we have Fatima Syed.
Ms. Syed, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Fatima Syed. I'm a recent graduate from UHLC. I took the February bar, and I also happen to be a resident physician at the Texas Medical Center. And I just wanted to offer my perspective as a recent bar examinee and as a doctor who finds herself at the front lines of this pandemic. While I appreciate the out-of-the-box thinking that's offered by the hotel option, I want to emphasize that this is by no means pandemic-proof. Applicants will inevitably be in contact with each other in waiting areas and other common areas, and the sanitation of the hotel rooms themselves, especially in terms of antiviral measures, will be very difficult to ensure. I personally am of the opinion that the only safe and morally sound option under these circumstances is granting diploma privilege. But if the board chooses to proceed with the presented options, I urge you to apply CDC social distancing guidelines to the hotel setting and consult with physicians as to what the safest option actually is. Overall, I'm imploring the board to move forward with the humility to recognize that you will not be able to predict what conditions will look like in September or October or even February. That's the very nature of a pandemic. Its trajectory is determined by the collective actions of the masses. And all that we really know right now is that the situation is bad and will likely become worse. Our ICUs are filling up and we're having to convert other hospital units to care for COVID patients. Keep in mind that your decisions now have real tangible consequences for your community. Thank you.
Dr. Syed, thank you. Appreciate your comments very much. Thank you for being here. Ms. Gonzalez?
That completes all of our public comments.
Very well. Board members, the last item is our catch-all. Well, first of all, let me just say, I think I speak for the board when I say thank you to each and every one of you that took the time to wait and to be patient, and then to come on and give us your comments, all of which are compelling, and we're listening, and we appreciate your interest in this, and we appreciate your situation. At this time, that takes care of the agenda items for today. Unless there are any other issues, does anyone else have anything before we sign off? If not, I just want to say that I think it's clear, board members, that we all understand all too well that there are serious hardships and health concerns that everybody's concerned about. We also, I think, are fully aware from the briefing we got from Nadia and Susan today, and from some of the comments, that we're aware that there are technical and technological challenges with how we're proceeding forward. But I at least for now, and am assured that they're working on it, and they're looking at all the details and are going to keep us plugged in. And finally, we are all in this world of uncertainty. We're fully aware of that and the impact it's having, and COVID is impacting, I know, everyone, and some of us more personally than others, but I don't want it to go unsaid that we don't understand that and we don't see that. So I want to thank you, each and every one of you. You remain in my thoughts. I miss gathering in person. This is a poor substitute for a meeting. It's not even one-dimensional, it's less than dimensional. And so know that I miss you, but I appreciate you very much, and thank you for the hard work you're putting into this. Staff has been working nonstop, and I know that you all have as well. So unless there's anything further at this point, we'll adjourn. Y'all take care.
Audrey, could we just have a reminder that people need to tell Nadia about what days they're available for the small group review and the next meeting?
Right. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. So please get those dates into Ms. Gonzalez today so we can get that back on the map. And as always, that's what we know as of 1 o'clock today. Just be nimble and be prepared to pivot in case we need to meet sooner, board. Okay? Y'all take care. Thank y'all. We are adjourned.